Okay, the Dogs are a 32.5 point favorite over Vanderbilt, and that's a lot of points. I mean, my general thought immediately is not to take Georgia on that one, but and that was the Saturday night line just after they had really hammered Kentucky. So we'll just see where this thing winds up. I think it is an indication of just how good this Georgia team looks right now. The other thing that was sort of I don't know about surprising, but noticeable this morning when I was checking everything. So again, I don't bet on sports. It's just something that I really monitor because I think it's a good way to. I think it's a good. It's just as we've entered the time of the year where it's both sunny and cold. This is why I don't live in the north right now. It's not even that. It's not even that cold right now. But um, so I do not bet on sports. I do not bet on college football. I do not bet on sports, generally speaking. But I follow it very, very, very closely because it's a great indicator of what's going on out there. And the Vanderbilt line 32 and a half. It might be 35 by the end of the week. That's okay. But the thing that I noticed the most was Georgia is still the consensus national championship favorite. What happened there was the line had been creeping away from Georgia a little, not the line, the favorites. Now what you're seeing is that Georgia has, uh, I guess the term is progressed rather than regressed, has gotten back to where they were coming into their peak power during this first 6 weeks of college football. They are back at plus 200 or plus 250 to win the national championship across the board with everybody. And what does that mean? Well, it means that they are around 30 something percent chance to win the national championship. That's probably about right, something like that. I mean, there's a lot of teams that are still out there. I mean, you got Michigan. Now, the other thing that's happened is bettors are coalescing around Michigan and Georgia. So it's no longer that Georgia is 2 times more likely or 3 times more likely than Michigan to win the national championship. There, people must be watching Ohio State and not being impressed. That's part of what's going on here because Georgia's relative strength continues to be the same as it was. Whereas with Michigan, it's just like a presidential primary. If you when someone drops out, someone else rises. Right now, it seems to me like Michigan is in a position where everybody's watching the Big Ten and they're not impressed. And I will add, the Big Ten looked at the beginning of the season like we could have a lot. This is man, it's just falling apart. And so you basically have Penn State, Michigan State, excuse me, Penn State, Ohio State, and Michigan, and that's really it. Now, as time goes on, we'll see. For Georgia, the thing that looks essentially in Georgia's way are two things. Number one, that you have to play all of the games. I mean, you're not just gonna go out there and kick the ball out and nothing happens. I mean, you got to go play. So there's that. You got to go to Tennessee. You got to host Mississippi, and you got to host Mizzou. Obviously, the game in Jacksonville, and then Tech, beat Miami last night somehow. That was shocking. But you look at all those games, and they're all, and then the second one is really, Alabama's playing better. Now, I don't think they're as good as Georgia. It doesn't look like they'll be better than Georgia this season. But you get into a one game scenario where both teams are 11-1, that would be a really dicey situation because only in that scenario one of those teams would go. But boy, I tell you right now, Alabama to me looks like, although they're not the best team in the SEC, they may be a top 8 team or a top 7 team because uh, they're getting better now. I mean, I don't know who I would legit. I would probably take Ohio State in that game. I don't know that I would take them by a lot. I'm just going to tell you that right now. Our friends at EcoPoly, this is a great. I don't get to showcase this table a lot because it's a little bit harder for me to move around in our backyard set here. But this is awesome for eating. These chairs, which you may not be able to see, but I will hold up for you. There you go. They do a great job. This is all manufactured in Georgia, in the heart of Georgia, in Dodge County. This is recycled material, y'all. It's great for the environment, easy to clean. Uh, 20-year warranty. This is just like this is red and black because they understand this audience. I mean, I think Eco probably understands a lot about all of this stuff. This is sustainable furniture you will have for decades. It has a 20-year warranty in your backyard. This is backyard for us. If you have a beach house, if you have a lake house, if you have a mountain house, if you have rental property. Now, rental property, this is going to be sturdy enough to get through. We have rental property, and people are, if they beat this up, they're going to take a lot of beating to get it for this to mess up. So, outstanding quality. Check our friends out. The link is down below. 15% off from EcoPoly and free shipping. I mean, right now, if I were betting, which again I do not bet for obvious reasons. I mean, if you bet and you bet on that Tech game last night, money line for Miami, if you bet the really the one that stands out is if you bet Missouri yesterday and LSU did that to you, that was criminal how they did not get a cover Missouri on that game. Um, but I just, 32 and a half is a lot of points. It is a road game. I understand that. It is not the traditional road game because you're in Nashville, but that is a fair amount of points. I mean, that means like yesterday, the one of the few things that you could really criticize Georgia about last night was the sudden change defense. If Georgia turns it over lately, the other team's just scoring touchdowns. So you cannot have turnovers if you're Georgia from here on out because the defense is not getting the job done on that front. They're doing everything else. They're just not getting it done on that front. And it's going to be a really tough game for Vanderbilt. I'm just going to tell you. They actually played Florida okay for a half. Um, and they had moments against Kentucky actually, but they are not in the universe with Georgia. Georgia is going to hurt them. Not. I mean, like that's the wrong way to put it. Georgia is going to absolutely pound them over and over again. And I think, um, you know, there are moments in seasons that people remember. I'm going to go out on a limb and say the Vanderbilt game is not going to be one of those games. People are not going to. Do you remember the 21 Vandy game? I'll tell you why I do remember that game up there. I don't remember last year's game against Vanderbilt. It's homecoming, and they blew them out. Um, the reason why I remember 21 Vandy is that. Oh, those are my wife's glasses. Don't tell me about that. The reason why I remember the 21 game is um, that was when I knew Georgia was very possibly going to win the national championship. They just scored at will, 35 points in the first quarter. That's really hard to do. It's hard to score 35 and a half. They scored 35 in the first quarter. They almost scored more points than Vanderbilt had yards that day. So if you ask me, if I look back on it, when did I have that moment in this season? There's two moments so far, okay, that stick out to me. First of all, it was something that we saw from SEC Inside when Georgia's halftime speech during the South Carolina game. It was that moment where they were not in concern, they weren't panicked, none of that stuff. That and then the fight against Auburn. The fight against Auburn. By the way, if you're looking for this shirt, it's down. I got a link down below for it. This sweatshirt, I should say. It says Natty List. And Scott and Mindy have put 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. I got Scott and Mindy are claiming all of Georgia's national championships over at Red Zone, which is appropriate. We're not that far from Christmas, y'all. We've got our buddies at EcoPoly. We're our friends at Red Zone. My uncle went to Red Zone yesterday to check out a lot of the stuff they got. He does not live in town. It's just it's a family run place, just like EcoPoly's locally owned, family owned. Dog Post, family owned. I mean, Matt, Ryan, Parker, Dylan, Fletcher, Caitlin. I mean, all Mary Helen, everybody that's worked at Dog Post, Deanna, everybody. You know, we all know each other. That's the sort of stuff that you're going to get from the people that we reference on this program. These are family owned businesses that we support, and Scott and Minnie have been awesome through the years. Let me tell you, you can still pick up dog instruction. You can still pick up double dogs there, but that's where this sweatshirt's from, and I need it because the birds are coming out and it's cold. Why is it so cold all of a sudden? Um, I like the way that Georgia's playing. Obviously, these last two games, really these last three and a half games. I would say the first half of South Carolina was probably the roughest Georgia's played this season. Even against the first half against Auburn, they were 10 all at the half, right? Is that right? I can't remember everything. But this team is, I mean, they are not so dominant like they were in 21 that they can't lose. Spoiler alert, they lost in 21. They are not so dominant. I'm not sure now, though. Like, last night was pretty nasty. I mean, they did last night to Kentucky what they did to Oregon last year and what they did to South Carolina. And that South Carolina team was not ranked last year. So that could be coming again on somebody else. I just finished Leggy's thoughts on the site, so check that out because I know this is coming out in the mid afternoon on Sunday. But um, they're not going to, y'all realize they're not going to play like that all the time, right? Like, you're not really expecting Georgia to play like that. That's the worst Kentucky's played this season. Well, they didn't play great against Eastern Kentucky, but that's probably the worst that Kentucky's going to play this year. And it might not be the best that Georgia plays, but that's about TCU 65-7 last night. I mean, that was a beating. So I don't know. I would take Vandy right now. If the higher that thing goes, they just like I don't know. And I think, but the biggest thing as far as betting stuff is concerned that I saw is that Georgia's now not just at the betting favor, but it's gotten back to where it was. Michigan's coming along too. I need to watch Michigan a little bit more. I saw them some of this season earlier, and they were fine. It wasn't unbelievable, but I think to some degree, you have to pay attention to them because they're winning in ways that is decisive and so forth. I do not think the Big Ten is very good this year. I think they're not that great. Thanks for watching. Make sure you're checking out the website. We'll see you over on Dog Post.